Howdy folks, thank you once again for watching and welcome to another edition of Smarter Money Matters. It really does, with your wealth doctor Jeff Camarda, joined by our super CFPs, Lou and Anna. Thanks so much for watching. Today's topic is family offices, what they are, and talking kind of about family mission statements. And then we'll give you a couple of examples, good and bad. But the first thing is a family office, which is still not a very well known term, basically means an office or a collection of professionals whose job it is to run the business interests, the financial interests, more specifically, of affluent families that have accumulated significant assets. And typically these days, I think the line is drawn, in order to warrant a family office of a couple $100 million, that sort of thing, which is pretty rarefied air for most of our viewers. But still, the core concepts and the services are really applicable to most people that have accumulated even fairly modest wealth. So family office typically, and the way we do, and we'll talk about Camarda's Total Wealth Care is kind of family office light. The core responsibilities are portfolio management, of course, generating income if there are rental properties, managing the rentals and the real estate, then the cash flow, taxes, estate planning, legal, what else, Lou? I'm sure I forgot. Asset protection,
insurance.
Insurance, anything else that I missed, Anna?
I mean, sometimes, even like bill paying, those types of even, more administrative functions.
Yeah, core services like that, and then depending on the affluence and the or the appetite of the family, it also often includes travel concierge, maintaining a fleet of private jets, picking up the dry cleaning, walking the dogs, pretty much all the services that are required by a specific family. And many of you probably won't have an interest in those really complicated examples. But the core services of putting everything together, what we call total wealth care, is really important. It makes it easy on the family. Things fit together better. When you have a tax person that's just looking at the tax returns once or twice a year, an insurance agent, and a broker over at a major brokerage firm, they tend to kind of be isolated and don't really communicate and don't coordinate things well. So what may make sense tax-wise could be a horrible investment idea, and since they don't confer and try to find the best solution that accommodates both opportunities, often things aren't as well done.
Absolutely.
So I've been talking probably too much, which is unusual for me. But if you guys would like to add to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, that pretty much sums it up in terms of what family offices are and what they do. And I guess we can talk about the mission statement and kind of how we can help with in that regard.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
I mean, I would just say, the model, the family office model that we kind of have now, right, where we have different professionals under one roof, it makes things
Here,
a lot
Camarda,
Camarda, yeah, it makes it easier. And past experience, when I've gotten in touch with a client's, let's say, tax advisor, right? Sometimes they're a little stingy with information.
At previous firms, I guess it could be true here.
Yeah, and they're just maybe a little stingy with information because they don't want to give up any of their relationship with the client potentially. Where at a family office type model like a Camarda, everyone's, the clients have the option of having all those professionals under one roof.
It's much more collaborative. We're all working for the good of the client. And that's a really good point. You find that when you have this isolated advisor model where you have the CF, they're like, it's floating in space in little capsules, the CPA and then the lawyer and the insurance agent, they're all very jealous of each other. They don't want to give up client control. They're afraid that somebody's going to steal a client from them, so they become very guarded. And often they'll attack each other just to demonstrate how valuable they are, right?
Yeah. And I also think with today's day and age, they also have to be kind of careful and cognizant of how much information to disclose, because you don't want to give away information that may hurt a client in a way too, right? So if you don't have a relationship with that professional on the other side of the table, then it becomes stingy. Absolutely.
Well, it's a really good point, and that's why it's so important. Something that we insist on if a client's the attorney or tax advisor, whatever, if we're not doing it all in-house, if they want us to share information, the client's got to give us written authorization before we do that, which has become really kind of, automatic, right, for a long time. But you should, as viewers, look upon those that don't do this with somewhat jaundiced eye, which is to say that, if you got an advisor or an accountant or attorney that's willing to give up your data without asking you first for written permission, that may be a hole in your financial security and identity theft risk that you might want to plug. But that's a really good point. But anyway, we find it much more collegial by having the legal team, the tax team, and everybody work together with one specific objective, maximizing the wealth profile of the client to be actually less expensive and a lot more effective. But on to your point about family mission statements, which is a really, really good idea. And this is based on a Wall Street Journal article that probably appeared, in early October. So most folks know what mission statements are for companies, right? We call ours the Constitution. It's been hanging here on the boardroom wall for probably 25 years now. But you don't really hear it much about families. But boy, what a great idea. What a great idea. And a family mission statement, according to the Journal, lays out principles and goals in a few sentences. The aim is to avoid the fighting that has destroyed fortunes and left relatives battling in court, or just to make sure that younger generations don't squander the fortune. There's an old Chinese, I think, expression, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Have you heard that? Do you know what it means?
I have not heard it, but I think you have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it means, the first generation makes the money, gets rich, right? The second generation blows it all, and the third generation's back in the dirt again. Which is a lot of truth to that, right?
Yes.
You don't train the kids, well, oh, gee whiz, I'm entitled to all this money, we're rich, and they kind of, the connection between what produced the wealth and what is needed to maintain it gets lost. So you had a couple, we'll come back to the mission statements in a second, but you had a couple of stories that you wanted to share about, some disaster stories, I think both of you, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we all come across these, horror stories from clients, and they're close to, obviously, close to heart, close to us, and recently I sat down with a client who, very, very good client of ours, but has been a loyal client for a number of years. He had a medical procedure that he kind of went through, and a heart operation. And so it was pretty scary. He didn't know how that was going to turn out. Thankfully, everything was fine. But right before, he went under the, under the knife, so to speak.
Anesthesia first, I hope.
Yeah, hopefully. But anyways, he sat his family. He sat his 2 kids down, and he's divorced, and he met a new lady in his life that he also has he's planning on marrying her now. But at that time, this was probably about a year ago when this took place. They were he wanted to leave her some of his assets. He's got some significant assets, including the family home, was going to be transferred to this new love in his life.
I bet that inspired a lot of affection amongst the children.
So exactly. So in the middle of his surgery procedure, instead of worrying how the dad is going to come out of it and everything's going to be fine, they went backstage and argued a lot, and it was became a blowout and a whole fiasco, so to speak, over inheritance, over who's going to get what assets, because they went through the will and the trust right before he went under, and and obviously that's created a lot of tension within that family now because of that disagreement.
Which will take a long time, if ever, before you dissipate.
Yeah. Correct. So that's just one recent story that I kind of wanted to share. But yeah, absolutely.
Now, if you guys haven't watched the HBO show Succession, which is just a brilliant, wonderful show, it's all about this. It's really, really worth watching. You have some stories, Anna?
Yeah, I mean, I've helped clients. One in particular, only child, dad passed away. Didn't have things, outlined and as robust of an estate plan that we would recommend for our clients. This was from a prior firm I worked at, and his dad had passed, and he ended up getting introduced to me. And most of the assets, he was beneficiary, everything flowed to him. But there was a small, employer stock account that his father had through Walmart, and that had to go through probate. And some third cousin came out of the woodwork, and she challenged him being the heir of that. And they spent probably about 2 or 3 years in court, back and forth, trying to, get it through probate. again, 2 or 3 years, all those fees, and the account, was not that significant. It became, for my
A
client.
real bone of contention.
Yes, it just became like he felt that it was his money, or it was entitled to him. He was entitled to it, and she wasn't. And it just became, him essentially fighting her off because he felt it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, which just blows up the relationships, and which is so unfortunate. And I'll tell a quick story. It's actually a family story. I'll blur the details a little bit, but those of my family members that were affected, I'm sure will remember it painfully. But a story of 2 aunts that were in a southern state, with which a nephew and I guess a great nephew and a niece had a very close relationship, which they had cultivated over many years of genuine affection. And toward the end of the aunts' lives, when they were needed care and a little bit perhaps of dementia, swooped down another cousin from a northern state, and I'll just call him Joey because that was his name, but right, who whined and dined and wooed and said God knows what to the richer of the 2 aunts. They both had a good bit of money, and convinced her, in her demented state or semi-demented state, with a lawyer in cahoots, to go ahead and upset the estate planning apple cart, rewrite the trust, whisk all the money off back to the northern state. And this kind of probably was actionable. It was probably something that shouldn't have been done, and the person lost the capacity to make these changes. But it happens all the time, And it's by having back to family mission statements, having some agreement and clarity over what the wishes are, helps to run things smoothly, just like a business's mission statement or strategic document, which is kind of what, wealthy family is. It's more complicated and dysfunctional than most businesses, ours accepted. But it's still, these are the considerations. And back to one of the things you said earlier, before we'll read some mission statements after this, is that you see this a lot with second marriages. Where the couple splits up, there are kids from a previous marriage, they get remarried, and I'll just say we have Martha and Roger here, and Roger's got 3 kids from a previous marriage, but he's married to Martha, and maybe he has kids with Martha, but he still wants to take care of his kids from the previous marriage, and he's a lot more motivated to do that than Martha probably is. She may be a good stepmother, they may get along, but she probably, she doesn't have that maternal, bond with them. And without the proper planning, without Roger and Martha sitting down and saying, okay, if I go first, I'm the man, I probably will. This is, we'll split. You'll have the use of the assets for your retirement, for your lifetime, or most of them. But when you finally go, then my kid's got to get this piece, which is typically done on a device called a Q-tip trust. But without having not only the legal documents in place, but the understanding and the agreement that this is our plan, this is our mission for the money, things often go quite awry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important to have these, family financial meetings, and I know you do that, Jeff, with your family also. But to educate your family, and even disclose. I know some clients don't like to disclose what they have. It may not be for everyone, but usually if you talk about money in your household, if you have those, educate your kids kind of, how hard you had to earn to kind of what you have, not to not to kind of piss it all away.
And to inculcate or instill in them the work ethic. There's a lot of things that I do, my kids don't really, and I said, look, no, you go ahead and do it yourself. Daddy can't do it for you. You have to learn how to do it yourself. You got to learn how to fish.
Yeah.
So here are some of the mission statements, and they're quite varied, and it really just depends on, a lot of times I'll tell people, say, what should I do? But I said, it's not up to me. These are your values and your goals. My job is to identify the opportunities, give you clarity as to what, what path you may want to take, and then help you get there. So that's, we're, agnostic in terms of what is right. It's for you to determine what is right, but, understand how to really get to what you think is right. But here's one, life is a gift that cannot be wasted. Family is the essence of that life, and as a family, we will work hard, we will play hard, we will live in the pursuit of knowledge, we will love our family unconditionally, we will give more than we take to ensure a better world, which is beautiful, and that's what that they agreed on. So before we get to another one, some families have a more formal document called the Constitution, For families that own businesses, constitutions can lay out what minimum requirements family members and their spouses must meet to be able to work at the business, which is important. You know, nepotism is really very corrosive. To try to avoid drama later, they can even define who counts as family, such as stepchildren or not. And that's an important consideration that I hadn't considered before, right? Here's another a family that kicks off their annual meeting by reading the mission statement aloud and leading a discussion of whether it needs revision, kind of like a board of directors meeting. Then they update the family on the finances and the estate plans before they break off to have a nice meal. And here's another mission statement, which is a little bit closer to my personal feelings. Our mission is to preserve, grow, and steward resources while prioritizing generosity so we may invest in family through education, life-enriching experiences, and quality time together. And that really hits it for me. But what matters to me don't matter to you. You got to figure out what it is that's important for you all. And the last thing I'll quote from the article is that this one guy has named all the family trusts beginning with different variations of DSTP, which stands for Don't Spend the Principal. Don't spend the principal, stupid. Because once that's gone, it's all gone. Do you guys have any concluding stories or remarks?
Yeah, no, I just want to say, I mean, just judging on this article and those quotes from there, how important it is to have these conversations. To have these conversations, not to wait until it's too late, not to wait until there's a death in the family, that someone passes away. To start these conversations, start it early. Talk, educate yourself, educate your family members, and hopefully that is going to alleviate some of these, heartaches down the road.
Yeah, and I would add with what Lou was saying, like, take the time, educate your family, educate your children, because the more education you provide, the better stewards of wealth, they likely would be. If they don't know anything about how you grew it, how you preserved your wealth, they're not going to understand how to take care of it when it's in their hands.
They won't appreciate it as much, right?
Exactly.
And engage them. Talk about it. People tend to be, especially greatest generation folks, tend to be very guarded about their money, but it's important. You don't have to reveal everything and show them the account numbers, and then give them a power of attorney, which means they can write a check to themselves. But involve them to the extent that you're comfortable. We have these accounts here. This is where the real estate is, or mortgages. This is how the trust's set up. This is, I think you're going to be the best one. Whatever. Have a discussion and involve them as stakeholders in the family wealth, which they really are. Unless you're going to spend it all in retirement, and many of you won't. Give them some guidance as to how to carry on and preserve your legacy, which is really what it is. So, just on an unrelated topic, and thank you very much, we have another question from a viewer that was actually, I think, directed at Lou. Yeah. And this fellow was past the RMD age, pulling money out of his traditional IRA, had a question about Roth conversion specifically. What was it?
Yeah, so he was asking if he can use his RMD, requirement of distribution, that he's required to take this year towards his Roth, convert that into his Roth account. And you want to answer it? Or?
I mean, yeah, I can answer it. So you have to satisfy that RMD requirement first.
Right.
Then you can convert additional money into the Roth.
But you can't take the RMD money on which you have to pay tax anyway and use that same tax to justify making it tax-free, right?
Right.
That's kind of be double dipping kind of situation.
Correct. So it's just just put it in numbers. If you have, let's say your RMD for the year is $10,000, and you want, you have to take that out of the IRA, and then if you want to do additional Roth conversion, you can't, on top of that $10,000, you can't use that 10 towards the Roth.
So just now that I'm confused, Lou, so straighten me out, okay? So we have, the first $10,000 come back RMD, right?
Yes.
Got to pay tax on that. If I want to do a Roth conversion for $10,000, I take in another 10 and pay the tax on that. So I pay tax on 20.
Correct.
Yes.
But I can't put the RMD money into a Roth.
No.
Because, you got to pay the tax on that, just as kind of the...
Correct.
Please keep the questions coming, guys. We'd love to answer them, whether you're clients or not. Just happen not to be a client, but we're very happy to spread the wealth of our knowledge. Well, that's all for this week, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, it is your Super CFPs and Dr. Jeff Camarda with another scintillating episode, we hope. Thanks so much for watching Smarter Money Matters. It really does, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.